2B2T is the oldest and most chaotic anarchy server in Minecraft. While there are a lot of other servers that have the same history and culture as 2B2T, it's by far the most populous in terms of players and structures. Spawn is a mess of scattered blocks, withers, lava, and geared veterans hell-bent on killing any players trying to escape spawn. Now, while the difficulty of escaping spawn is debated, most players will die at least once or twice on their way out. And besides the new players, with the advent of automatic crystal PvP, it's possible for fully geared players to be taken out in just a few hits. So, all that being said, what if it was in hardcore? A server with no rules, rife with exploits, hacking, and backstabbing, now flips a switch, and all death is now permanent. Anyone who hasn't logged into the server before is instantly in big trouble. Even assuming that established players stop going to spawn entirely to avoid combat, the environmental dangers of spawn are still bad enough to kill 80 to 90% of new players trying to escape. Even if you're a skilled player, getting an unlucky spawn or unfortunate lag spike could be enough to bring your short journey to an end. Even after escaping spawn, finding food, wood, and gearing up is a challenge of its own. Honestly, I would not be surprised if escort services started popping up on the server. The basic idea being that an established player guides a new player out of spawn. For a nominal fee, of course. But for those without skill, luck, or the ability to pay, most of the new player base would likely be wiped away. The queue would drop from nearly 1,000 to just a few hundred. But for a moment, let's step away from new players. Let's say you're already on the server, you have a decent amount of gear, and you have a small size solo base out in the millions. Those of you who have actually played on 2B2T know that at a certain distance out, you're essentially just playing a really laggy single player world. You could go years without being found. But 2B2T has a long history of exploits used to find player coordinates, and more recently, even log into accounts without login information. If these exploits were to hit the server after the switch to hardcore, the fallout would be unprecedented. While most people weren't affected by the login exploit because of how numerous the player base is, imagine if someone created a bot that logged the coordinates of people who frequently logged into the server. It's scary stuff. If you're a YouTuber, there's no reason you should ever log into the server again. I'm serious, you instantly have a target on your back. There's nothing you can do, just give up. And can you imagine what would happen to group bases? Trolling and griefing groups like the BSB would implode. With such a toxic player group, it's hard to imagine anything else but pure chaos. For larger but more structured groups, I can imagine order being maintained for a while, but nothing stops one or a few flippant members deciding to go haywire and killing as many people as they could before they end up getting capped themselves. Smaller group bases with only close friends would likely be safe. Assuming you don't have some kind of falling out, or you get found, it would finally make 2B live up to its ridiculous moniker of trust no one, because one life is all you get. Although, that brings up the question of alternative accounts. 2B2T already has a priority queue system where you can pay $20 a month for quicker logins onto the server. There are hundreds of players with deep pockets willing to pay just to play on 2B2T. Now who's to say those same people wouldn't pay $40 for another chance at the Anarchy Wasteland? Especially if the queue becomes small enough to no longer be an issue. The server would be populated by those with deep pockets and an intense desire to play on the server. It would literally create the 1% in block game. But a new account doesn't guarantee a permanent spot on the server. You still have to escape spawn, and you still have to survive in the Anarchy Wasteland. And if you spawn next to a wither and get instantly doinked, sorry, that's $40 out of pocket. Sucks to suck, Jack. I don't know your name. I'm assuming there's some Jack out there who's saying, he's talking to me. The survivors would most likely be the most wealthy of the 2B2T player base, but hopefully with that investment, that also means they're the most dedicated. I mean, imagine you're in 2B2T in hardcore and you come across a massive base like Block Game Mecca or Space Valkyria 3. Optimistically, the world could be covered by just those bases, and only the long-lasting players would get the privilege of seeing them. Outside of group bases, though, the world would look absolutely apocalyptic. Well, more apocalyptic. Spawn would likely be almost completely empty, and people wouldn't want to build within a few million blocks of spawn. It would truly be an Anarchy Wasteland. Now, none of that's ever going to happen because, of course, it wouldn't. But hey, House, make a pretty good April Fool's joke. Don't you think? But more than anything, it's an interesting hypothetical. I like going through the potential outcomes of this scenario, and I hope you do too. All that said, thanks for watching this video. I make hardcore videos. I usually don't make videos about 2B2T. I might in the future. Hey, that's a good video. I kind of like that one. That one's pretty good. It's just not blue screen out the background. It's just me pointing at a blue wall, and there's no video, and I look like an asshole.